In this installment of Behind the Design, we sit down with Manuel Zwinz to delve into the design process behind the new Evo SLS. We uncover the updates and explore how these changes translate to real-world performance. Whether you're a freerider looking to boost higher, dip into loops, or simply enjoy an incredibly versatile kite, this is your deep dive into the engineering and vision behind one of Duotone's most popular models. Hi Manu, so let's talk about the Evo SLS. Explain to us who this kite is designed for and where it sits in the Duotone range.
So the Evo SLS is basically our one-for-all freeride kite. The SLS construction kind of stands for the best price to performance ratio in our range. So for everyone who is already kiting and wants to push his limits a little bit more, like for bigger jumps, maybe wants to get into kite loops, or just looking for higher performance kite, the Evo SLS is the kite to go to.
Tell us more about the design for this season. What changes can we expect compared to last year's model, and what will riders feel?
So basically last year the kite was a complete redesign. So we spent a lot of time really setting up a whole new model, obviously staying in this Evo range, but that means for this year there were a lot of smaller refinements. I really looked at every detail of the kite and tweaked different things, canopy tension, refined the arc a little bit. So this year's Evo basically is a refined version of last year's Evo. I think the biggest visible change is the new bridle. There were some complaints, I would say, about last year's Evo, that when you were really overpowered and really sheeted out, you kind of lost the feeling of the kite a little bit. And now with this new bridle that's a little bit longer, it gives you a little bit longer bar stroke, so you have more control, even fully sheeted out and depowered, and then the bar stroke to power on your kite is a little bit longer, so that just gives you a little more range. The second thing you might notice with this bridle is that there is a tiny bridle leg very far down the arc, which sits almost horizontal, and that really helps me to control the horizontal movement of the arc, so the kite overall stays more compact, especially in gusty condition, and this gives you a more solid feel, I would say, in the kite overall.
So the 6-point bridle seems to be one of the major features for this year. Were there other small changes to the geometry and profile, and how do they impact the performance?
The rest is really refinements, right? There's trailing edge tension is improved. There are different batten sizes on different kite sizes now, and that really helped me to reduce tip flutter. So when you get into looping, the kite is way more stable now in the tip area. But then there are also some other small refinements in the arc and in the sweep angle, which just overall led to a more solid and better feeling kite.
Were there any material changes for this year?
Yeah, so material-wise, we upgraded the trailing edge material. So for the trailing edge, there's a little bit heavier material to reduce the wear when the kite mainly sits on the beach and flutters. We used the Mod 3S there. This is the material we actually adopted from our wing department. So they used it successfully for the last 2 years, I think. Proven to be very, very durable. So we now taking this into the kite line as well.
Have there been any changes to construction or manufacturing details?
One thing we changed for all of our kites for this season is the batten pockets. So instead of having these batten pockets made of cloth, basically the batten sits in a little pocket in the end, and then there's a plastic part, and that just helps us to hold the batten in place better, and it's overall also a little bit lighter, so we can save some weight there as well.
Let's talk about settings and pressures. What were the recommended air pressures? And can riders tune the kite with different bar sizes depending on the turning speed that they want?
So for our panda kites, we recommend 7 psi. That's where the kites are developed for and where they work very well. In terms of tuning, obviously you have the back pigtail tuning, where you can choose for a little bit heavier bar and a little bit slower turning kite, or a little bit lighter bar and a little bit faster kite. And then you can always choose between bar lengths and or bar width and line length. I mainly developed the kites on the medium click bar with 22 meter lines, because this sits kind of in the middle. But depending on what you're doing with the kite, you can go to the big truss bar, for example, on 24 meter lines. That makes the kite definitely turn faster, especially like on bigger sizes and lighter winds. You might want to go this direction. But then in the other direction, to a small click bar with 22 meter lines, it helps you to slow down the kite a little bit. And nowadays these kites are so quick turning that it might be unnecessarily quick for some people. Like, I'm thinking about getting into your first jumps, first board or first back rolls or whatever. We just want to have like a little more solid kite. Then it might be useful to go for a little bit smaller bar. If you're getting into your first kite loops and you want to have the kite loop be over very quick, you go for like a wider bar and longer line lengths. But the kite basically works with every setup. It's really up to your personal preference.
Thanks very much, Manu. And just to summarize, what makes the Evo SLS stand out?
To summarize, the Evo SLS is our best all-rounder. SLS construction, obviously best price to performance ratio. The main changes for this year is the 6-point bridle, which gives the kite a little bit longer bar stroke, a little bit more control, especially when you sheet it out. And then a lot of small refinements, both in the arc and in the sweep, as well as canopy tension. Overall, the kite is just a little more solid and better controllable than last year.